Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Morhonda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone. It is caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown! ISB! 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Galloway drives all the way to the hole, throws it up, got it! And Indiana's got their first lead of this contest.
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
Now, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Tuesday, the Ides of March. Cinco de Marcho. Just kidding. I hope everybody is having a good start to their week. Don't forget, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, powered by Andy Morhonda. Just go to andymorhonda.com to get more to your door in the best in new and used vehicles. And our friends over at Hoosier Hanks East, where you can always find after the game with Todd Leary or a great meal. Either way. How's everybody doing today? Looking forward to another great show. Mike DeCourcy will join us. We'll talk some bracketology. Mr. Bracketology. Let's see, what is it that he says? John, I always forget.
He calls it bracket forecasting.
There we go. To differentiate it. Let me write that down. Bracket forecaster. How about that? Kind of like a weatherman. And it is something that everyone pays attention to and looking forward to as tournament play it's here. It's here, peoples. As a matter of fact, conference tournament play has begun. It's happening already. The smaller conferences, they run theirs a week before to not coincide with the big boys to get some attention for their own. And there'll be some fun games to watch. We'll go through those scores. Duke played last night. They got a win, not tournament style. Just regular. Houston tops the last AP poll for the second straight week. But, freshman Joseph Tugler, one of the top-ranked Houston's best defenders, broke a bone in his right hand and will miss the rest of the season, Kelvin Sampson said Monday. Tugler will have surgery Thursday. That's a big hit. Everyone will try to figure out what it means for us, Sampson said, but that's a human being with a broken foot who invested his entire life into this season. You hate to see that because you always want to see these teams at full power. But I didn't pick Houston. You've heard me say it before. I was not picking them to make my Final Four this year. Now they'll probably make it because they lost somebody. Makes it even all the more difficult. We shall see. Let's see. Marquette star. Man, Tyler Kolek. He's out for the next few games. How is that going to affect? How will those things affect the tournament? A lot of times, you remember the tournament committee takes those kinds of things into consideration, so to speak. We shall see. UConn wins its first outright Big East title since 1999. You got to be kidding me. They win national championships, but not a national or not a conference championship. That's funny. They are the defending men's national champion. However, they have not won a share of the Big East regular East title in 18 years. I believe they've won 3 national titles in that span, have they not? Donovan Clingan scored 19 points, pulled down 11 rebounds to lead a balanced attack as they clinched their first outright tournament conference championship in 25 years Sunday with a 91-61 rout of Seton Hall. How will that affect that? That won't affect UConn's the number 1 seed, so that is what it is. Today is also pro day for Indiana football. Busy. This is going to be an unbelievably busy day. Finish up with the show. Got to run out to Indiana football pro day, which starts at noon, and then that gets interrupted at 12:30. We have a presser with Mackenzie Mbako, Indiana's talented freshman. Big Ten football, and speaking of that, Big Ten football media days. John Boy, you know when they are? You know how far away they are?
I know they're in Indianapolis. I know they're in July.
4 months. It is
wild to think about.
4 months from Big Ten football media days.
I also saw that they're dividing it into 3 days this year.
Yeah, this year is being extended an extra day to 3 days. Purdue is among the teams that will speak on day 1. USC, UCLA on day 2. Indiana's in the group on day 3. Kurt Signetti and crew making their first appearance at Big Ten football media days this year. July 23rd, 4th, and 5th at Lucas Oil Stadium. Of course, we'll be coming to you live from there each day. I can't believe that. That's nuts. There's that. A little bit of basketball news. I think I mentioned this yesterday, but Gabe Sularski, 6'6" shooting guard, visiting on Sunday. But he's in the class of 2026. So that's a minute out. I know you have to plan for the future, but I'm sure people would like to see potential suitors for closer in to being ready to play. 6'6" in the class of 26, like I said, from Bennett Academy in Lisle, Illinois. He has got an abundance of offers. Purdue, among those, that includes Illinois, Michigan, Michigan State, Missouri, Purdue, Tennessee, Wisconsin, Northwestern, and Indiana as a now he does not have an offer from Indiana yet, does he? Maybe he does. But the visit's coming up this Sunday as the Spartans come to town, and there will be a few others there as well. Get that information to you. I think there will be a story in the Hoosier.com about Gabe here relatively soon, as that is something that does not stop. I was just laughing. I was hoping for that breather, John, after basketball comes to a close for a second, but no dice, man.
It's still, even though there is a drop off, it still never ends. That's just the life of this business.
No. It's that goes right into recruiting immediately. You've got the Kentucky Derby, the Indy 500, Big Ten football media days. Next thing you know, hello, football season. It'll be here before you know it. How excited are Indiana fans, Purdue fans, about the upcoming football seasons? Purdue, They're going into year 2 of a new coach. I don't know how much of a jump I would expect from the Boilers. I'm thinking that Indiana will be ahead of Purdue. I'm not going to predict a victory right now because that would be stupid for a game that's in November. But it just feels like, well, we'll see. We'll certainly see. Scores last night in the world of college basketball, if you were not looking. Baylor and Texas had a tight one. Number 11 Baylor comes away with a win, though. Duke wins, as I said. There is some tournament action going in the ASUN. Their first round got underway. Florida Gulf Coast, remember them? Lost to Indiana by a little bit. Then they beat Florida Atlantic when I was down there watching them. Well, they're out already. And their season is over. 14-18, knocked out of the ASUN championship tournament, 69-63 by Queens University. Kennesaw State, gone. Jacksonville, 92-86. Pair of 15 and 16 teams. So both of those teams' hopes are riding on winning that tournament. The Howard Bison trample all over Delaware State. I just wanted to say that. No other big games on the make sure I get all the way through there. On the docket for last night. But there is an awfully big one tonight. This has to be the game of the year in the Big Ten. As Purdue, number 2 Purdue, travels to Illinois, number 12 Illinois, I should say. That game gets underway at 7. I will be watching that after a long day, I can promise you. Illinois still has a shot at a piece of the Big Ten championship. Now, that would require a lot of help from for Illinois for Purdue to lose back-to-back games. What's the likelihood of that happening? Not very much, in my opinion. That's going to be hard-pressed to see that come to fruition. Mike DeCourcy on the program today. I'm going to talk to him about, he's not a fan of the Big 12 Conference. And I'm not saying I'm right. And there was, I was talking with Todd Leary, and he shot a video to me from Stephen Van Pelt that showed how the Big 12 kind of ran the system, basically. They all played a bunch of sub-2 and 300 teams in the early season and beat the living crap out of them. Really skewed their numbers, and then they got into conference play. There's no bad losses in the Big 12, so their numbers stayed up. But I want to get an explanation from Mike on how in the world you have a Michigan State team with a net ranking of 22. And you have Indiana, who is about a mile behind them. Literally. Indiana's like 104, unless that's changed after the win. But in essence, 80 spots difference between Michigan State and Indiana in the net. These valued rankings that are used to establish the participants of the NCAA tournament. Now, if you look at the Big Ten standings, and we'll talk more about this when Mike joins us. Let's see, before we 9-9, but we'll talk about that because Mike joins us next, so I'll get into all that. Here's a weird story for you. Nothing related to basketball, just just one of those sports stories. Let her roll, John boy. Dateline Anchorage, Alaska. A veteran musher had to kill a moose after it injured one of its dogs shortly after the start of this year's Iditarod, race officials said Monday. Dallas Seavey informed the officials with the Iditarod Trail sled dog race early Monday morning that he was forced to shoot the moose with a handgun in self-defense. This came after the moose became entangled with the dogs and the musher. From the race said Stevie, who was tied for the most Iditarod wins ever at 5, said he urged officials to get the moose off the trail. It fell on my sled. It was sprawled on the trail. Stevie told an Iditarod Insider television crew. Maybe we'll take that down a notch, John. I gutted it the best I could, but it was ugly. Yes, he said, I gutted it the best I could, but it was ugly. Stevie, whose birthday was Monday, he turned 37, is not the first musher to have to kill a moose during an Iditarod. Back in 1985, the late Susan Butcher was leading the race when she used an axe and a parka to fend off a moose, but it killed 2 of her dogs and injured 13 others. Another musher came along and killed that moose. Butcher had to quit that race, but went on to win 4 Iditarods. This year's race started Sunday afternoon in Willow, about 75 miles north of Anchorage. He encountered the moose around 2 a.m., a little late night, early morning encounter, 14 miles outside of race checkpoint in Sventa. He was en route to the next checkpoint 50 miles away in Finger Lake. He arrived in Finger Lake Monday, where he dropped off a dog that was injured in the moose encounter. The dog was flown to Anchorage, where it was being evaluated. The state troopers were informed of the dead moose, and race officials said that every effort was being made to salvage the meat. Race rules state that if a big game animal like a moose, caribou, or buffalo is killed in defense of life or property, the musher must gut the animal and report it to race officials at the next checkpoint. Mushers who follow must help gut the animal when possible, the rules state. New race marshal Ward Pelfrey said he would continue to gather information about the encounter as it pertains to the rules. According to the Iditarod statement, musher Paige Drumdy confirmed to race officials the moose was dead in the middle of the trail when she arrived in Finger Lake on Monday. Yeah, like my team went up and over it like it's that in the middle of the trail, she said. Stevie wasn't the first musher to encounter a moose along that stretch of the race. Race leader Jesse Holmes, who is a cast member of the National Geographic reality TV show about life in rural Alaska called Life Below Zero, had a moose encounter between 2 checkpoints, but it's not clear if it was the same moose. Could have 2 moose on the loose. I had to punch a moose in the nose out there, he told the camera crew, but he did not offer other details as to whether the moose punched back. The 1,000-mile race across Alaska will end sometime next week when the winning musher comes off the Bering Sea ice and crosses under the Burled Arch finish line in Nome. How about that for a unique start to your day, John Boy?
Yeah, that was something. Little moose action.
Ryan didn't like your elevator music. I think it might have been a little too loud.
Well, so it's weird. I know we got to get to break, but on my end, it was very low. But maybe the way it comes through over YouTube made it seem louder than it actually was. But let's go ahead and get to break and bring Mike DeCourcy in.
That sounds like a winner. We've got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Back with all of that and more right after this break.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the There you go, Moose music.
Moose music.
It was something.
I have no idea what I stepped into in the middle of there.
Yeah, no, you do not.
Whenever he went into it at the time, I was like, man, it's almost break time. I don't know how long this is going to take, but we can go ahead and do it if he's calling for it.
I found I don't want to call it a funny story, but a unique story last night when I was just reading and doing all that about the Iditarod, and one of the competitors had an encounter with a moose. And there are rules that if you encounter a large animal and you have to kill it, the rules state you must gut it. And if you are a musher following behind, you must stop and help. And I was like, this can't be real, man. That could have been me.
Two audio sources fighting for the same bandwidth. I think what I'll need to do next time, if we do something like that, I need to have a pre-programmed piece of audio in StreamYard instead of playing it off of YouTube, because I think that's why it was doing what it was doing.
It was loud on my end from the.
That's very weird. That's very weird.
That's because you don't have a mic.
On my end, it's like because it's controlling the audio, like the radio only sounds, if that makes sense, like the pots, whatever you want to call them. So it sounded normal to me.
Right.
Right. Yeah, but
everything was very low. Out of 100 decibels, the music was on 10.
Wow.
Well, it sounded like 80 in my ear.
I'll have to go back and listen to the YouTube version of that, because when you were saying turn that down, John, I was like, what do you mean? I can barely hear it.
Yeah.
Oh well.
That's the goal. Well, I'd say normally that's the goal, but sometimes you may want to turn it up when I'm talking.
I'll just have to figure out why I did that, because again, we've never done something like that, so it was a little experiment. But we'll have that fixed next time.
Mikey Bob, how is the bracket forecasting going?
Whew. It's picking up, Jim. This is a hard year, I will say. It's a hard year. We can talk about it on the air. It's a hard year because there are so many teams that are unworthy of the seeds to which they seem wedded. Let's put it that way.
Oh, trust me, you can just use the Big Ten as a model for how whacked it is.
All right, here we go, guys. 10 seconds.
In Chop Shop Steakhouse, Chop Shop Market and Table, a part of the Wild Food Group, is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by the Chop Shop, home of the Indiana football and men's basketball coaches shows. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, welcome back. It is Tuesday, March 5th. Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News and Big Ten Network joins us now. Plenty to talk about, Mike. Tournament is actually here. We've got the ASUN underway. The A10 is not A10, I think. I'm not sure, but there's a couple that are already up and going.
Definitely not the Atlantic 10. Definitely not them.
Definitely not Kmart. Definitely not. But it is here, and so let the frivolity begin. The festivities, they are here, and your time to shine. You put on your PhD coat and go into the vaulted room and come out with steam rolling and with a fresh new set of brackets, and they come to you, and it's like when they elect a new pope, the white smoke goes up, So it's all India. A lot of people I have to look forward to. I don't want to point any teams out, but and I sent you a video that we'll talk about too. I don't know if you got a chance to look at that.
I did not get a chance to watch it yet. I'm working on something similar. Sometimes I don't like to consume other media. That
Right, I got you.
on
May,
something similar to what I'm
might
doing.
sway you or inadvertently. Here are all right. I'm going to talk about this first.
Sure.
Look at if I look at the Big Ten standings, and this is just because I can't get over how wild this is, the disparity. I look at a 17-12 Michigan State team, 9-9 in the conference right now. They have 2 games left, of course. Indiana, a game behind them in the conference at 8-10, and see overall 16-13. So yeah, just a game behind them. Period. They play one of these last 2 games together. Let's say Indiana wins that game. And just for argument's sake, I'm going to give Indiana a win over Minnesota, bumps them to 18 wins. That would bump them to 18 wins on the season. If Michigan State, then they would split. They would also be at 18 and 13, both same records there. They would have the same conference records. But Michigan State, their net ranking is a 22.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, I know that schedule, wins, all that goes into it. But I'm like, is there that much difference in what Michigan State has accomplished or failed to get done this year? They have a big win over Baylor. And that's the difference maker is that the only difference maker?
They also beat Indiana State, which I know some will brush past, but Indiana State has been terrific.
They're a tournament team.
Yeah.
But still, we're talking 80 spots difference. 80. It just seems I can't get over the disparity, either how high that Michigan State is with that. And Indiana, they had a lot of their early non-conference wins were too close. They are all you beat Morehead State by a point. You barely beat Florida Gulf Coast, who they're already out. They got beat in the ASUN, and their season, they had a losing season, so they're out. And they did not get the win against Kansas, which that's the biggest difference, though. I mean, if Indiana had that win, they're still not going to be. How much higher would they be with that win?
Well, I think the first thing that people need to understand, Jim, is what the net is and what it's measuring. It is a predictive metric. It was never acknowledged as such publicly by the NCAA, but that's what it is. It is not a record or results metric. It is a predictive metric. So it measures essentially how you perform from possession to possession rather than from game to game. In a predictive metric, theoretically, you could lose a lot of 1-point games and register higher than a team that wins half its games by a point and loses, or I should say, loses half its game by a point and wins half its game by a point. It loses a bunch of games by blowout and wins a bunch of games by a point. That team is not going to register well in a predictive metric. Whereas a team that loses 30 games by a point is not going to be viewed as an 0-30 team. It's gonna obviously score lower than the teams that are winning games by a lot, but it's not going to score terribly or horrifically as 0-30 would suggest, because they lost every game by a point. That's the nature of the predictive metric. I argued when the NCAA met, I think it was around 2017 or 18. I never can remember the year. But there was a meeting in January of that year to which I was invited, along with Jerry Palm from CBS, along with Ken Pomeroy, Jeff Sagarin, a gentleman from ESPN who was in charge of the BPI, whose name I don't remember, and Andy Glockner, a friend of mine who used to work for ESPN and Sports Illustrated, and wrote a book about NBA analytics. And it was all about trying to redesign a metric to get the NCAA away from the RPI. And I argued that, yes, the RPI was not a good metric, but that the core of the NCAA selection process should be some sort of improved record metric that is about winning and losing, where you played the game. Is it, a road win is tougher than a neutral win, which is tougher than a home win, and how good the team was that you played, which is beating Houston is better than beating Texas A&M Corpus Christi, say. So that was what I argued for, and I lost the argument. And I think that the reason the NCAA chose to go with this approach is because it's kind of what basketball has trended toward, which is the Ken Pom rankings and that sort of thing. I don't understand, though, Jim, if people are so vexed by the net, why aren't they yelling at the Ken Pom rankings or the BPI or any of the other predictive metrics? Why do they choose the net? Because it's the NCAA's, and so they assume it's done wrong. But it's not done wrong. It's just done what it is.
You can't blame people for thinking that.
But it is what it is. And if you want to be critical of the NCAA for using a predictive metric at the core of the selection process as its sorting tool, go for it. I don't agree with them doing that. But it's just a different metric. They're all, I know right now the theory is that the Big 12 has gamed the net. That's the theory. So if you look.
And Michigan State, by the way, lost to Kansas State out of the Big 12, speaking of the devil. So
Ken Pom, a quick count, there are 9 Big 12 teams out of 14 in the Ken Pom top 40. And so it may be, I may have missed one, but ballpark, 9 out of the top 40. So did they game Ken Pom? Ken Pom is considered to be the gold standard for predictive ratings. Did they game that one too? Nobody talks about that because they don't want to question Ken Pom. Because Ken's numbers are so great. And he's got 20 years of esteem built into his rankings. And deservedly so. But if you believe in predictive metrics, then there's no difference between, there are subtle differences, but there's no essential difference between Ken's rankings and the net and the BPI. They all are different versions of the same thing. And if I went and looked at the BPI right now real quick, I bet you there are 9 or 10 teams in the top 40 of the BPI.
Yeah, there's no perfect way to do anything, especially when you're using numbers, because there's so many different systems, and I get that. I just, the disparity was just so large. I'm like, daggone, that's not that Indiana has done anything to make someone think that they're a top 50 team here. Don't get me wrong, but I was just surprised to see Michigan State as high as they are, I guess.
Believe me, I can't figure it out either. It's one of those things that it seems to defy what you see. But like I said, same thing. KenPom.com has Michigan State at 20. I think that's better than their net ranking.
Yeah, it is. They're only 22nd in the net.
So it shows that there's a consistency there. If you're measuring certain things, there's a consistency there to how it treats the numbers. You may believe that Ken's rankings are better than that. I won't argue with that. I'm fine with that. It's your money, so to speak, because the predictive metric has a purpose for the most part. And so if you believe in Ken's rankings, then good. That's great. If you think they're better than the net and that they should use Ken instead, that's fine. But it's not. It's just you'd still be yelling about Michigan State being too high. So as I said, I believe that a results-based metric is the best tool. Which whether it's KPI or strength of record, or maybe somebody else has a better one. I believe that a results-based metric is the best tool for serving as the sorting mechanism. That because I've watched games and analyzed games this year on television where I could tell that at a certain point, a team that was ahead by 20 wasn't necessarily trying to get up by 30, Jim, but that they wanted to win by 20. And where you would have put the walk-ons in with 2 minutes left, now you put them in for 30 seconds, they get one trip. It has changed because of that. Because the predictive metrics have, whether or not they're at the core of the process, even if they're not the sorting tool, they're still going to be on the minds of the selection committee members. Some of them, at least some of them, maybe all of them, because you don't know. There's 12 members, I think, on the committee now. You don't know what any of them think, but it's pretty clear based on previous recent work that predictive metrics do play a role in that room. And so if I am a coach, then I am thinking that, like I said, you're up on a league rival, you're up 20, you're not thinking about trying to beat them by 30 because they're a partner to an extent and you guys see each other all the time. So you're not trying to make it worse, but you're not trying to let them up off the mat either. And I don't know if that's what we need in college basketball, but I don't know if we're ever going to get away from it, even if the committee were to say no more net, we're going a record metric. We're doing, the margin of victory doesn't matter on the main primary sorting tool. It's still going to be on Ken Palm. It's still going to be on BPI and whatever other predictive metric they call on to replace Jeff Sagarin in the future. It's still going to be there, and it'll still be on the minds of the committee, and therefore it'll be on the minds of the coaches.
And looking at the Big Ten standings, something else to blow your mind this beautiful Tuesday. Indiana, if they were to win out again, just for fun's sake, could and probably would end up as high as the number 5 seed in the Big Ten tournament.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because what it says is that although the league has not been powerful this year, it has been really balanced. There's a lot of complaint in the ACC about how they are treated by the selection process and how awful it is and how mean everybody is being to them after all these years. and the reality is the ACC has some terrible teams. I mean, some really terrible teams. I don't think you have to. I think all you have to do is turn to your right, Jim, I think, and you'll see one. You just look out maybe your back window or your front window. I'm not sure how your home is situated, but it's not far down the road from where you are. One of their really terrible teams. And Louisville is not the only one. There are other really terrible teams in that league. The Big Ten does not have really terrible teams. That just does not exist in this league.
Michigan's as close as you can get, but other than that,
Michigan is as close as you can get and probably warrants it to an extent, that descriptor. But Michigan has also beaten St. John's, which will be which is a trending tournament team that's not necessarily in. So and if you look at their roster, I mean, they are certainly capable. But okay, so if you want to put Michigan into that class, that's one team. And that's out of 14, one team. It makes a difference when you don't have terrible teams for your other teams. It strengthens their records to an extent, the teams that are trying to make the tournament, but it also weakens them because your not terrible teams are harder to beat. And so you take a loss every now and then, like Purdue did with Ohio State.
the second to last team in the Big Ten, Maryland, right now, they're 500.
Yeah.
They're not even below 500. So that's hard
the
to do.
13th place team in the league has Dante Scott, Julian Reese, and Jameer Young on it.
Jameer Young, yes.
I mean, that's your next to worst team.
Yes. Oh, Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News and Big Ten Network with us right now. We're talking college basketball and more coming up. Stay with us. Brought to you by Chop Shop Market and Table, located in Bloomington, and host, at least for another week, to the Inside Indiana Basketball. You can go out and check that out. But even any other time, stop in for an incredible meal. And diners get 10% off bakery and deli items. Anything else that you might want to grab while you're there. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're looking for a home, holy moly, are you going to Minneapolis?
I will. You mean this week?
No, next week.
Next week, yes, I will be up there. Yes, I'm on the set. I'm not technically in the studio, but I'm on the set for the pregame shows on Saturday and Sunday.
Call you Minneapolis Mike. Dang it. Oh. Big Ten football media days. 4 months away.
Yeah.
4 months away.
No.
I cannot believe that.
No, that ain't right.
April,
Really?
May, June, July.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
Oh,
I was like, whoa, what?
I'm like doing the math. March is the 3rd month. July is the 7th month. Oh my gosh, he's right.
He didn't know which was more shocking, me being right or it actually being 4 months away.
Wow. It does go fast, Jim. I mean, we're coming up on our last Big Ten basketball and beyond of the season this Sunday. It just went like that.
It always does.
It does. It really does. My wife sitting home alone watching HBO said it does not go fast, but I disagree.
Let's see. Have you hooked her up with Winning Time yet?
Yeah, we watched the first season. I started it by myself. I didn't think she'd have any interest, but in the end, she really liked it. We're going to have to watch.
Second season's even better.
Yeah, we've got a few other things we've got to get through, but I definitely want to watch season 2 for sure.
All right, here we go, guys.
Payment free for 90 days or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Tuesday, the Ides of March. Is that right, Mike? Is March 5th the Ides of March?
I thought it was March 15th.
You may be right. I just got excited. I think I was combining.
Did you rearrange St. Patrick's Day too?
Actually, I was combining the Ides of March with Cinco de Mayo, so it was Cinco de Marcho, I guess. So screwed that one up. But Fozon over in Amman, Jordan has a question that I'll answer first. And the answer is no. Just a fast no. If Indiana, the only way Indiana can get into the Big Ten or the NCAA tournament, in my opinion, is to win the Big Ten tournament. Getting to the championship won't do it. Simply, and that would make them 21, and it was kind of what I was talking about earlier, and that would make them 21 and 13 because of their metrics. Their numbers are just that bad that I do not see any path whatsoever unless they win the Big Ten tournament personally. You know a lot better than I do.
I agree with that. I think part of it as well is the nature of the remaining schedule. I mean, beating Minnesota on the road is a quad 2 win, and wouldn't and it's not going. If you beat them, you're certain they're 77 in the net right now. So if you beat them, it's not going to change. It's not going to help that rank. So that's definitely a quad 2 win. And then you have Michigan State at home, which is a quality win, but a lot of people now have that on their resume. Let's say, and
so you're saying that's not an exclusive club?
Yes. And so you'd probably have to beat both Illinois and Purdue in order to get to be considered for an at-large. And mathematically, you can't beat Illinois and Purdue as it stands, and probably as it will stand at the end of this week, without winning it. So you'd probably have to beat Purdue in the semis and Illinois in the final, or vice versa, because they're like, it's almost impossible for them to end up on the same side of the bracket. So I just don't see any way it happens.
They would, if they win their first day game, since I've got it in my head that 5 seed now. Just trying to schedule it.
Well, with this theory, I mean, you have to win the 2, so you'd probably be toward that, if not that.
And if so, they would play in Illinois, and it would be a Purdue in the final, I think, because how the numbers would work out.
Right.
But
wait, no, if they're 5, they would play Purdue first, because you'd be in the bracket as the.
Oh, I figured Purdue would get the 8.
Well, down. You would get the 8 while you play in the first. You'd play on Thursday, and then you win that, and you would play the 4 on Friday, and then on Saturday, as the 4 winner, theoretically, you would play the 1, and then you would highly theoretically, beat Purdue, and then you would play Illinois in the final. And like I said, if you win that game, you're going anyway. And if you don't win that game, then you haven't probably done what you would need to do to even really have a shot at large. But it's really cool for him to reach out from Amman.
Amman is amazing. He's on here all the time. It's amazing. Everyone is amazing. Every single one of you. But we go from Amman all the way out to Las Vegas Larry, who is up and at it every day as well, and everywhere in between. I'm only going to entertain this question just because Mike's here. Does winning our schedule impact decisions on Woody? I'm assuming if you mean winning out. I don't care if they win out, if they lose out. There's going to be no impact, in my opinion. I do not see anything happening, and Indiana fans either have to accept it or wait, one or the other, because I don't think, period, personally, that it doesn't matter what happens. But Mike, I think that you will probably agree with that. And I never predict an agreement from you, but on that one, I think I will go out on a limb.
I think you're right. I do agree with that. I don't
That's
think
twice. Write it down, John.
I will say, though, that I do believe that he has bosses, and those bosses need to have a conversation, and they need to come away with some understanding of, are we going to take advantage of the best advantage of the shooter that you're recruiting? A guy, who's considered one of the 2 or 3 best shooters coming into college basketball next year. What's your plan for taking advantage of him? Are you going to add to that? When you said the other day, or you can play inside out, but you can't play inside out if there's no out, and that's why it hasn't worked this year. There's no out. There are very good players out there, but
he always seems to miss ingredients like that. He always seems to miss that's the thing he always seems to miss those aspects of those things.
Well, I don't think that they took full advantage of the out last season. I believe that, and I wonder about that for this year. As I've said, I don't agree with everything that he's done in terms of the roster approach or the approach to the way they play. But I also understand that this was the person that Indiana hired, and I'm getting pushback now that says, oh, yeah, we had problems with it. No, I did not hear a word. There may have been some Reddit subgroup where they thought they could do better or whatever. But that goes back to the idea that everybody thinks they're getting Bruce Pearl or whatever. That's the high major coaches almost never change jobs unless they're about to lose the one they have. They almost never change because changing is hard, Jim. It's hard to go from Auburn, where you're winning every game just about, and they're probably going to put your name on the floor if you stay there, and they're paying you $6 million a year or whatever you got after Louisville flirted with you. It's hard to go from that to now you have to start over again. Now, it's easier to start over than it used to be, but it's hard to go and completely change your dynamic for what? That's what they don't understand. What's the for what? I don't understand. He's top 20, top 10 at Auburn. What are you going to do that he hasn't done there? He's made the Final Four at Auburn. What are you going to give him that he can't accomplish where he stands? And this is all, of course, just theoretical because we went through it 2 years ago with Louisville. And it was the same conversation I had with people in Louisville. He's not coming. There's no reason for him to come. It's that I'm just using Bruce as an example because he's one who often pops up in these kinds of conversations. Those guys almost and I saw someone last night saying Scott Drew was going to move. Why? They just built him a new building. He's got a national championship. He can coach there for as long as he wants. They're going to pay him a ton of money. He's friends with those people on TV, the decorators or whatever they are. I mean, I don't understand that one at all, why they're famous. But in any case, he doesn't have any reason to move. But everybody thinks because you're at a Baylor or an Auburn, well, you clearly have to want to be at one of the brand names that's been enduring forever. Well, if you're at Baylor and you can't get over the hump to the Final Four or the national championship or whatever, yeah, then maybe. But each of those guys has done those things where they are. So there's no reason. Can they make more money? Well, all they have to do right now is go knock on their president's door and say, I want more money. And the money starts flowing out the door. It's just that you have to have more imagination than that. It's just not that simple. And so, in Mike's case, there are things he can do better. And if I were his bosses, I'd want to know what the plan is for doing them better. I may not be if I'm the boss, I may or may not be a basketball person, but I can see a plan and read it. It's just like the CEO of a major company understands his company, say, or her company. They understand the company, but they don't necessarily know whether the people in data science or the tech division, the tech support division, or they don't know exactly whether those people are doing their jobs great, other than whether the results are there. And so it's the same concept. You have to have a plan, if you're Mike Woodson, for how you're going to change from what you did this year that didn't work at a high enough level to what you can do next season that will.
Absolutely. And that's
but I wonder how much pushback there would be from, I'll just say the administration, because I would imagine the questions will come with answers pretty similar to what the fans hear every week on the pressers. And the thing about that is people are always banging on comments. I see it. I get them all the time. I see them all the time. You guys are soft. You don't ask questions. And I'm like, first of all, it ain't that easy. You get one shot generally, and most of the time they're going to answer the question how they want to. And it's either going to be skewed how they want it to be skewed, or they'll just not really answer it and answer something else.
Yes.
And you don't have a chance for a follow-up. And so, bam, there that goes. And that's how it stays. That's not how it used to be, but it is today. And I hate that because there's no true discussion there. And I think that that's a big part of why, well, fans are fans, but that helps the fans go a little crazy. I got to be honest with you. It would drive me crazy. It does drive me crazy. Hell, I'm in it.
No, you're right. I think that communication, I have on a couple of occasions lectured coaches on how to deal with the media. And I don't think that the majority of coaches do it well. But it's amazing how successful the ones who do it well are. Tom Izzo, Bill Self. Those guys do it well. Mick Cronin, although people on the outside perceive him one way, people who deal with him on a daily basis see him a different way and are given the opportunity to understand how and why he and his program are successful. Not this year, obviously, no one's claiming that, but over time, he's been highly successful, and he will answer questions. And I believe that is part of the job to becoming a successful coach is communicating with the media in a way that helps promote what you're doing and how you want to do it. You can do it without it. There have been coaches who've been successful without it, but you have to be really good then. I mean, you have to be extraordinary to be able to do it without communicating your message effectively. It's rare.
I agree, sir. What is up next for you?
Yeah, that thing I was talking about relative to the conferences. That's going to come out this week. Looking forward to that. Bracket today at CBB on Fox or on my social media, at X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. We'll be publishing that today, our latest bracket. Seed lists updated every day from now until the end of it. And like I said earlier, I think we were in the break. This will be the final episode of Big Ten Basketball and Beyond Sunday night for this year, I should say, for this season, the regular season, because the show does continue through the tournament. But this will be the final regular season show for 2024. And it's the end of a huge day of Big Ten basketball. I think we have 6 games on Sunday, not all on BTN, but 6 Big Ten games on Sunday, several of them on BTN. I'll be there for all of that. Looking forward to it.
Us too, man. It's coming to it's that time. It's that time. And I'm here for it.
Absolutely.
Mike DeCourcy from the Big Ten Network, where you can catch him this weekend one more time for daggone, I forgot the name.
Big Ten Basketball and Beyond.
Big Ten Basketball and Beyond.
2024.
Got that. And then next week, he'll be up in Minneapolis for the Big Ten Basketball Tournament. So, Mike, thank you so much, brother. We look forward to it. Looking forward to the latest brackets as well.
All right. We'll see you next week. Thanks, Jim.
You betcha. Hey, we've got more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by Cheryl Sizemore. For those of you looking for a home down in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore and her 2 decades of experience. It could be the difference between getting the home you want or not. Reach out to her, Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market.
Boy, I went way over there. Sorry.
It's fine. Excuse me.
Those are just good conversations. Do dee do dee do dee do 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 do. Man, come on.
All right, here we go.
Time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf Community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details. This segment is brought to you by The Ugly Grouper. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back on this Tuesday, March 5. Spring it's almost here. We're getting closer to daylight savings time. Holy smokes. I am jacked for that, John. I am so looking forward to that.
There is always one negative thing that comes along with it, and that's the first day after you spring forward, because that's one less hour of sleep you get before your Monday.
Yeah, but it doesn't screw with me like in the fall. My body does not adjust to that very well.
That's interesting because I feel like the extra hour of sleep would help more so than the less hour of sleep.
It should. If you get that kind of thing,
Yeah.
sleep, that is. That was a joke. Haha. Boom, boom. Indiana football pro day today. I'll be heading out there at the conclusion of today's broadcast. Then we'll also have a presser with Mackenzie Mbako from Indiana basketball. So we'll hear from him tomorrow.
Visiting Indiana basketball this weekend as they host Michigan State is 6'6" shooting guard Gabe Sularski out of Bennett Academy in Lisle, Illinois. He's in the 2026 class. And guess who else will be there? Heritage Hill's all-time leading scorer and rebounder with a year left to play, Trent Sisley. John, he owns this year. He broke the all-time leading rebounding, which is his brother Blake's record, and the all-time scoring record. He still has a year to play.
Yeah, that's crazy, especially because in high school basketball, these records that get broken, it's not like the ones in college that are much debated with, the Caitlin Clark and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, don't. I am truly, I'm tired of hearing about it. I really am.
The good news is I do think, well, and this can be good or bad news. I don't know how some people might take this, but I believe even though she still will be the star of the show in the WNBA, I do think the Caitlin Clark noise won't be nearly as loud once she's the professional ranks. It doesn't mean that she won't be appreciated, but I mean, she no longer will be the face of college basketball as we know it.
I agree with that. Absolutely, because that's she's going to a place that has stars. I mean, yeah, she's not going to be the best player on the court for either team. Indiana had the number 1 pick last year, the Fever, and they have Aaliyah Boston on their roster. So, yeah, it's going. And not only that, you're going to have a whole bunch of these vets saying, get that out of here. Don't be thinking you're going to be bringing that stuff in here. She's going to get defended because there are some people that are probably offended of the attention she brings. But it has been a benefit to women's basketball. Now, if that translates to season ticket sales, I noticed that Bob Kravitz said that he had asked for information from the Fever about, has there been a bump? And they declined to give him anything. And I'm like, it's probably not a good sign. Not getting that bump yet. But yes, it will be very interesting in that. But I said it yesterday, and I'll double down on it again today. She did not break Pete Maravich's record. So just take that on down the road. It's a different game with different everything, a different size basketball. He had no 3-point shot, yada, yada. Am I breaking? I still have to break, right?
Yeah, we can go ahead and take an early break.
Well, I didn't know. No, I was just saying.
If not, I mean, we still got a couple minutes.
But yeah.
You got anything else you want to get into?
There was just that. Oh, we have sound, correct?
It's not. No, it's not ready. I had it yesterday, but it would take me some minutes to do that. And by the time I get it, it'll be time to bring in Chronic.
We've got.
See, I told you, it's like death, taxes, and wanting to play sound when we have it, and then not playing it when we do have it.
Yeah. We've got to get you where it's just always available to you. But yeah, we talked earlier about, think about that. If you're an Indiana fan, they can theoretically, and this is not as far-fetched as it would sound. Indiana could finish as high as the number 5 seed in the Big Ten Conference this season. I'll let that sink in for a moment. And the big reason for that is, I will not say the mediocrity, but I will say a lot of balance. Balance doesn't always mean good, but there's a lot of balance in the Big Ten from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. From about the 5th spot back. Well, 5 all the way down to, well, second to last. Let's just go to Penn State. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You got 7 teams that are within 2 games of each other. 2 games left in the season for most of these teams. Minnesota is one of those teams. Indiana takes them on next tomorrow. If they get a win, up Indiana goes a little bit. They'll be 9-10, as will Minnesota, but Indiana will have the tiebreaker over them. Iowa, currently 10-9. If they lose their last game and Indiana can win out, they're going to be 10-10. And they have the win over Iowa. Did Indiana? Yeah, they beat Wisconsin at home. So I don't want to get crazy there, but yeah, that's just nuts. It'll drive you crazy looking at the standings, but Wisconsin's last 2 games, hey, they play Rutgers, which that'll be a fist fight. Holy cow. That slow pace of Wisconsin and Rutgers' intense defense. Then Wisconsin has to end their season at Purdue. So best case scenario for Wisconsin is they split for the season. So there is all kinds. It's going to be really interesting to watch this season play out. Wisconsin, boy, that's going to be a big difference maker. Wisconsin needs to lose both games for Indiana to be the 5 seed, I believe. But if they did, Indiana could very well be that. We're going to take a break. We've got more coming up. Chronicle Hoosier joins us next. Brought to you by the Ugly Grouper down on Anna Maria Island, Florida. Anna Maria Island, Florida, for all you peeps that get out, getting ready to go traveling for the spring and the summer. And all of our listeners through YouTube that are listening on Florida. It's our number 3 state in listeners. How about that? So a whole bunch of you guys down there. We appreciate each and every one of you. And if you are following us on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe and like button, please. We're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Formerly.
Good morning, Chronic.
Good morning, gentlemen. How's it going?
Pretty good, brother. How are you?
Oh, living the dream.
This is nuts. Indiana could finish as high as the 5th seed in the Big Ten tournament.
It just shows how below average the conference is.
They need help in a Wisconsin win over at Wisconsin. But Wisconsin's losing their last game. They're going to play Purdue. But if they win one game, they're going to end up 1 game over 500, and Indiana can't get there. But that would get them still 6th seed.
You still with us, Chronic? And then you're going to drop out.
I am. I
Okay.
faced or deleted myself, I think.
Okay.
I'd like to delete myself a lot. Man, looks like it's supposed to be kind of rainy today, isn't it?
Yeah. Still going to be a little bit warm, but getting some of that spring weather in.
Pre-spring, some might call it.
It's the first false spring
There you go.
before we officially enter mud season. Yeah, Jim, you were talking earlier. 3 games separate 11th from 3rd
It's
in the
crazy.
conference.
And well, then this is what'll drive fans crazy. Let's say they end up the 6th seed. I don't think that Wisconsin will lose at home to Rutgers, but that's not like that's a gigantic upset with how Wisconsin has played and Rutgers. Then you start looking at where would they be? So they'd be 10-10. And you're like, well, if they'd have just this game, they'd have just won this game and that game, bam. And there's truth to that. If you don't lose the Penn State game at home,
or either one of them for that matter.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
especially the home game. You can't get freaking
10
Penn
seconds.
State at
Here
home.
we go.
Months on a
Swept by
2023
Nebraska.
Honda Ridgeline. Go to andymorehonda.com and get more to your door.
This segment is brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Yeah, welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Tuesday. Chronic Hoosier joining us now. Chronic, I was talking with Mike DeCourcy earlier. I don't want to poke the hole in the balloon of Indiana basketball fans, but there is no path to the NCAA tournament other than winning the Big Ten tournament, which, if you're an IU fan, you know what that record is. But ironically, they could climb as high as the 5th seed in the Big Ten for the Big Ten tournament, which a week ago, if I'd have said that, somebody might have slapped me.
Yeah, it's wild. There is, some would say a lot of parity. Some would say just a boatload of mediocrity in the conference right now, because while Indiana still has a big opportunity to move seed line up, doesn't change the fact you're 7 games out of first. Never really in contention for it, but also kind of just indicative of how lackluster the conference has been this year, save for basically Purdue and most of the time Illinois, but not necessarily all the time. So it's wild nonetheless. But as you were talking with Mike about, if that's the only path into the dance, it would certainly behoove them to give themselves the easiest path possible. And at this point, you've got a bunch of 1-game tournaments going forward with only 2 regular season games left. After that, there's nothing guaranteed. So you like to see the response that Woody was able to get out of him here the last 2 games. This is the first winning streak, multiple wins in a row in 2024. Has not been done since they rattled off Morehead State, North Alabama, Kennesaw State. So I know a lot of frustration is still bubbling over right now, and I know a lot of folks are not real sure how to feel about this streak, seeing as a lot of, everybody's kind of divided into what camp as far as where they think the direction of the program should be going forward. But, with Xavier Johnson back, the Hoosiers are playing some of the better ball we've seen in 2024. And I think most of us would agree it's March is always the best time to be playing your best ball. So let's get nuts. Let's see where this thing can go. Most importantly, they've got to win tomorrow night, because if they proceed to lose out, they would finish the season at 16-16, while NIT eligible by the skin of their teeth. So I think there's postseason ball ahead for the Hoosiers after the Big Ten tournament either way. But you've got a bunch of guys who are maybe starting to figure it out. When you see 3-point percentages in excess of 40%, free throw percentages, of 82% as they posted against Maryland. I don't know that all the ills have gone away or there's been a magical cure for everything, but you love to see them address some of the issues that they've struggled with. And, I think Xavier Johnson possibly played some of his best ball of this season. McKinsey and Baco showing, just what potential he truly holds, which is just boundless, honestly. Um, it's going to be an interesting close to the season, but as we've seen far too often this year, that can go out the window as soon as the ball gets tipped tomorrow night. So more than anything, let's continue this consistency that they've demonstrated here the last week, and why not parlay it and just see how crazy March can get for the Hoosiers.
No doubt. I think that was it their best game of the year? I don't know if I can call it their best game of the year, but if not, it was sure one of them. It was definitely the best closing. It's the thing that I am impressed by is the fact that they are still fighting with everything seeming like it's lost, with there's a lot of negativity, warranted negativity. Don't think that I'm giving everybody a pass, because I'm not. But it would also be easy for some of these guys to pack it in, especially when they had already been accused of that. And it's obviously that's not true, but it's good to see them fight. It's good to see them a road win coming from behind and win going away. That's a little impressive. I know it's against Maryland, but hey, Maryland's not horrible. They've had some decent wins this year. They're a solid Division I basketball team, but it's almost too little, too late. And well, it's probably not almost, but the fact that the NIT is even a conversation now again. Probably a week ago, I would have just kind of chuckled at that.
Yeah, I think a lot of folks were in that camp. Pretty much had just written this season off, and as easy as it would be, especially on the road. The run that Maryland closed the first half and began the second on, I think Indiana got down 16 points on the road. I know Maryland is not the world beaters we've seen in years past from them. But the Xfinity Center is not an easy place to play. It just never has been for most of the teams in the Big Ten. So to see them battle back from that and just strangle the Terps, those final 10 minutes, just put them in a chokehold and didn't relent. And that, they let up a little bit right at the bell after that final media timeout. But, it's one of those things where you've just got to wonder, what could have been had we seen some of that resolve, some of that fight, that cohesiveness. I felt like the ball was moving really well, especially in the second half. But most importantly, they were able to lock down on defense and allowed them to close that gap and then just turn around and reverse it on Maryland. And that killer instinct has been woefully missing for several years now, quite honestly. Indiana has really struggled to close teams out. So to be able to do that in conference on the road, that's 3 conference road wins for Indiana. And I know there's a lot of disappointment around the season, but that's still no small feat. And, I'm of the camp. You celebrate every win. You especially celebrate the road wins. You got to have a short-term memory, though, because that doesn't mean squat for the next game. And, I think we may be in for a little bit of a treat with Xavier Johnson's swan song here, recognizing the finality of the college career, and just really trying to sap the most out of every minute on the floor. So love to see it continue, and just love to see how weird this can get, because, if Indiana could climb to 5th in the Big Ten, or even 6th for that matter. I mean, we were, a lot of folks were writing off the possibility of avoiding the Wednesday games to begin with. So things swinging pretty wildly right now. But most importantly, you got a streak, and it's something to build on heading into postseason play here soon.
Yeah, back-to-back wins, something they haven't done for a minute, and that has to feel good. But they're playing well, and fortunately, the schedule lays out for them to where they have a chance to end the season on a very positive note. Is going to Minnesota and winning going to be easy? No, but
never is.
You're not going to Purdue. You're not going to Illinois. You're not going to Northwestern. And so I'd rather, if I had my druthers, I'd rather be going to Minnesota than say any of those other 3. But either way, you still have to win the game and then come back home and win a game against a Michigan State team that I was talking about this earlier. Their net rankings are unbelievably high. But if they lost, see, who do they play before Indiana? Because they've got 2 games left.
They've got Northwestern.
Oh man, it's at home, but Northwestern is a dangerous team. They're looking to bump their tournament seed up. Michigan State could lose out, and that would be funny. Not funny, but if they lost out and ended up 17-15, and Indiana was like, I don't know, 20-13. Guess who's getting in and guess who's not?
Yeah, and let's not forget too. This is a gift from the scheduling gods. When you get a 1 play against Michigan State and you don't have to go to Breslin, it would be a dang shame to waste that opportunity. Which would be, quite honestly, by a pretty wide margin, Indiana's best win on the year if they were able to close out the regular season Sunday with a win against the Spartans. So there's still a lot of opportunity ahead for them. And, I do think no matter what happens come selection Sunday, just the fact that this team, has positioned themselves to make the NIT. I know that a lot of folks are quick to point out how low the bar has fallen. But let's be honest, this is a team that's got, there's some well-documented flaws, some liabilities. And, quite honestly, the best thing you can do from a coaching standpoint, from a development standpoint, from a program building standpoint, is get more time as a team together. And I don't think you can discount just how valuable that can be for the subsequent season. Ask Terry Morin what NIT bursts can do for your program as you're trying to build something back up. I just, especially with the youth that Indiana has right now, I think you take every practice. I think you take every game as a gift, and just really try to make the most out of it. Because if these guys are willing to keep fighting, you got to keep feeding them and keep trying to grow together. So, not writing off, the Big Ten tournament, but at the same time, it's basically one game at a time from here on out. You just got to make the most out of it and see where the chips fall.
You got to feed the monkey, man.
Yeah, you got to shock the monkey. Feed the beast.
I was thinking that song was in my head last night too. That's ironic. But so Indiana has 2 games left in the regular season before they head off to Minnesota, and winning 1 game is very doable for this Indiana team. Winning that second game, that's going to be an uphill climb because it's going to be against either the likes of someone like Illinois, Northwestern, or Nebraska, depending on how that breaks out as far as the seeds and where everybody falls. Who knows?
Well,
crazy things have happened. We saw it a couple of years ago at the Big Ten tournament when Indiana went on that little bit of run that got them the play-in game.
Yeah, no, it's on the table for them, and I think as good as Purdue is, Purdue's proven they're beatable. Just ask Northwestern. Same can be said for Illinois. And when you get the opportunity to face up for a third time with some of these opponents, even when you've got your clocks cleaned repeatedly, history has shown that can be a really tough ask to do it a third time in a row. So March is all about who's hot right now. And I'm not going to go all the way out on the limb and say the Hoosiers are hot, but they've managed to put together their second streak in conference play for the year. And like I said, there's a lot of finality settling in, and this is a team that at least in the last week has proven they're not quite ready to hang them up yet. So that can be a powerful thing when the locker room gets together in that manner and decides that they're going to start playing for each other. And again, I'm not pushing all the chips in on that one, but you certainly have to appreciate the results here in the last week and just hope they continue to build on it.
Going today, Indiana Football Pro Day happening out at Memorial Stadium and the probably inside the Mellencamp Pavilion as I look outside possibly, but we will be going out there. So kind of a cool Kurt Signetti's first pro day for the program.
I'm really curious to see. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to make it over there, but really curious to see everybody's read on the vibes for all the public posturing, if you will. The foot he's put forward, it seems like a pretty marked shift. And from what I've been told from those close to the program, it's pretty evident in the north end zone across the board right now. There's a different look, a different feel to it. And, obviously Pro Day is just going through some drills and whatnot. But really curious to see exactly how that continues to progress and grow. You talk about some big culture changes. Could be one of the biggest in Big Ten history, quite honestly. So it all starts with the first step. Like I tell my kids this all the time. And no matter how insignificant, so long as you're going forward, you're making progress. So curious to see the progress that's perhaps evident at this point, and exactly where that can continue to grow and develop.
I mentioned Indiana hosting Michigan State to close out the regular season at Simon Scott Assembly Hall on Sunday. In attendance, expected Braylon Mullins, Trent Sisley, and Stephen Rogers and Reynolds, in addition to Gabe Sularski, a 6'6" shooting guard. He's in the 2026 class. The first two, though, Braylon Mullins and Trent Sisley, high up on the list of Indiana.
Wait a minute. You tell me Mike Woodson's recruiting kids still? Everything I've read the last 2 weeks said he was done with that, but that's good to hear he's still in the business of trying to recruit kids. No, it's it's a big one. This is one of those things where you wish the tape was all the case you needed to make with some of these prospects. But one of the things a coaching buddy of mine has been quick to point out, even during some of these worst games, the good recruiters are able to use these visits and break down for the prospects. You see where we're lacking. We see where you fill that need. And I think Indiana, with a lot of the kids they're targeting, are very much need based guys that have the potential to come in and provide some pretty immediate impact. So, like a lot of stuff, man, this is the relationship business. And contrary to what you may read on some of the message boards, the Indiana Hoosiers continue to nurture and cultivate a lot of really productive relationships. So we'll see if they can capitalize on them and seal some of these deals. But it's good to see that we're still in the game. And maybe every post you see on that message board isn't always necessarily the end-all be-all gospel. We ain't dead yet.
No, not by a long shot. Chronicle Hoosier, appreciate you, my friend.
Always great to be here, Jim. You guys have a great week.
Appreciate you, my brother. Brought to you by Andy Moore Honda. Just go to andymorehonda.com to get the best in new and used vehicles. We've got more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Back with it right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market.
Is Niziolek coming on?
You're supposed to. I guess he's somebody I'm going to need to communicate with more than the average guest because this happens more frequently than.
You might, if you can grab that sound. What?
Just give me a few minutes.
Can you not like keep that?
I can, but the way that I had it pulled up yesterday, it wasn't saved on anything. I just had it ready to go, and I was just going to, get rid of it.
Gotcha.
I did used to save all of them, but it took up too much space, so I just quit doing that. Excuse me. Just give me about 10 minutes, and I'll try to have. I may not be able to get all three of them, but if I can get them, I will. I'll get at least a couple of them.
A meal at home, or pick out a tomahawk steak or a grouper filet and enjoy it cooked to perfection in Chop Shop Steakhouse. Chop Shop Market and Table, a part of the Wild Food Group, is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Tuesday, March 5. Let's see, it's this Sunday. We flip the clocks, right? Second Sunday.
It is, yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes. You know who that is?
I don't.
Marv Alberts. Dinkins with a shot. Yes. That was his Bob Slick Leonard had boom, baby. And Marv Albert had yes. Pretty, he must have thought long and hard for that signature call.
He must have.
Yes. Yes. Funny. Simple but easy. It works. Simple but easy works. Tomorrow night, Indiana takes on the Minnesota Golden Gophers up in the barn. Cold, elevated floor, late game. Indiana has been playing well of late. Xavier Johnson has played with his head on straight. They were actually fun to watch. If you go back and if you haven't listened to the postgame show with Todd Leary, that's one of the things he said as well. It was fun to watch them because they competed. They did things that the fans haven't seen them do much this year. But to be able to get down 16 in the second half, no less, and dig yourself out of that hole, not only dig yourself out of that hole, but to win going away. Little surprising. Next year, Indiana will have to have a lot better of a season than they did this year. What happens to Purdue after they lose Zach Edey? I know that Matt Painter has another or a pair of big dudes on the roster waiting in the wings. Matter of fact, let's see exactly. I think they've got another a 7-footer. I don't think they have another Zach Edey for certain, because Zach Edey is a generational player. And I can't remember who it was. It's slow coming up, but here we go. Go. Man, see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Do you know how many players Purdue has listed as guards? 8. 8. That is the bulk of the lineup. You have only 13. Well, wait a minute. That's not right. I got to make sure that I didn't. Yeah, that's including walk-ons. I don't know who's what there. As far as being a guard or not. Will Berg. What is Will Berg? 7'2". There's Mike Niziolek. Just talking about what life for Purdue might be like next year after Mount Edie separates from the continent and moves on. But they've got another 7-footer in the wings. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good. Jim. How are you doing?
Great. Mike Niziolek from the Bloomington Herald-Times. Always working hard. Are you working going to pro day as well today?
Yes, that's the plan for sure.
Kurt Cignetti's first pro day. What is he looking at? Obviously, he'd like to see some Indiana guys get recognition because that just helps his program. But since he has not coached these guys, this is all, this is still the early stages. What is he looking to get out of this for his program?
Yeah, it's an awkward transition. I was covered Virginia Tech when the pro day happened between Justin Fuente and Brent Pry, and Pry comes in, and it's all basically a new coaching staff, new strength staff, and so it's guys that most of those players had never even worked with. So it's a little awkward. They'll help out as much as they can, but it is a weird transition because most of these Andre Carter's never really done anything with any of these coaches, so they'll try to help him out, to emphasize that Indiana is still home for any of the former players that come through, no matter who the coaches are. But it is a little weird.
Absolutely. And so looking forward to seeing a little football, just to break up the monotony of, as we get ready to dive headlong first into tournament time. It's actually already started with some of the smaller conferences getting going. I was talking earlier with Mike DeCourcy about Indiana, unbelievably, theoretically could wind up as high as 5th seed in the Big Ten tournament. Now that will take a little help from Rutgers beating Wisconsin, because Wisconsin has to go to Purdue to end their season, but they need them to pick up 2 losses. And then Indiana has the tiebreaker over virtually every team below them. So it is actually theoretically there for Indiana to be as high as the 5th seed, which is mind-boggling to me. Yeah,
I mean, it shows just how kind of even the Big Ten was, beyond kind of a couple of the top teams. Purdue's just in kind of a conference of their own right now, but everybody else is kind of bunched up and beat up on each other, and not much separation between that kind of second tier group. And it kind of speaks to, Mike Woodson trying to say that, they weren't going to write off the season, even as things looked really bleak, and they could really, help their path and give themselves a chance to win a game here in the tournament if they can improve their seeding.
Yeah, and I'm looking. What are you expecting out of this Big Ten tournament? Purdue, obviously. I don't want to say heavy favorite. I guess when you have a team like Illinois in there that is capable, well, hell, Northwestern's capable of beating Purdue. They did it once and almost did it twice. So there's a couple of teams, but Purdue obviously favored to win this thing and go into the NCAA tournament with that. But is Illinois any kind of a dark horse for you?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I still think, the way Purdue's played this year, you have to make, I don't think it's unreasonable to call them a heavy favorite just on how well they've played and how that nucleus they have just makes them just such a dangerous. Zach Edey's just a mismatch, just a walking mismatch right now, and so I think he's easy offense. You don't have to rely on the 3-point shot for them. In a tournament setting, that's always good. So I do think that they, it's not unreasonable to to think Purdue has an edge here against the rest of the conference. But like you said, Illinois, you don't write those teams off, but I do think that it'd be an upset I think if anybody else did win.
The women's tournament starts this week, and then of course the men's follows next week up in Minneapolis, beginning the men's tournament on Wednesday. Indiana with the comeback win the other day has really put themselves in a solid position. Like I said, they could go. We were talking about them potentially being in the bottom 4 as close to 1 game ago. And now I'm sitting here talking about the potential, which it may be a little far reaching, but as being as high as 5th. But a 6th seed is absolutely not out of the question.
Well, I think the key for them was to avoid sort of playing on Wednesday, and they're close to kind of wiping that chance out. So I think that's kind of the important part. If they split these next 2, I think that they've done enough to sort of to get some momentum a little bit. Kind of reframe the season. So yeah, I think it's important just to not finish in that bottom 4, something they've never done. So I think that was kind of the important step. I think it'd be hard for them to everything needs to kind of break right for them to finish as high as that 5th seed, like you mentioned. But just avoiding that Wednesday game, I think is good enough.
And on top of that, Indiana will have Braylon Mullins, Trent Sisley, Stephen Reynolds, and Gabe Sularski. And there may be others to join that, but visiting on Sunday for that Michigan State game, for their recruiting purposes, it is much better to have that a little bit more of a positive environment going on in the Indiana basketball program. Although if you look on social media, there's a fans thing putting out a ridiculous petition. And I'm like, guys, this is ridiculous, but whatever, that's free speech and whatnot. But they're going to have a lot of guys there. It's important for Indiana to finish strong.
Yeah, I mean, in front of recruits, it's always helped. But I mean, the atmosphere at Assembly Hall has not been bad at all this season in terms of even when the team was struggling. The fans came out, after that fire alarm came out, they came back into the stadium and made things hard. And so, I think that speaks to, recruits coming in will see that. And I think that's all that matters. I think that's going to, Assembly Hall kind of sells itself and sells sort of what this program's about. I mean, winning certainly helps. You don't want to get blown out on your home floor, but recruiting is not just about one game. And I think Indiana is well positioned when they have recruits on campus to sort of say, this is, basketball's big time here.
Absolutely. And then of course you've got the high school tournament going on in the state of Indiana, which again, some of these guys that we spoke about, well, I know that Trent's done. Braylon, did they get beat, or is he still playing? I can't remember. But either way, you've still got a lot of guys out there. Not the biggest class for Indiana, and as with Trent Sisley, he's a 25 guy. Sularski is a 26 guy. So these are a lot of seeds that are being planted.
Well, I think the work for next season will be done once this things end, and you got to look at the transfer portal. I think this team is going to need to work there to get kind of some of the pieces that they need to fill out this roster. I don't think necessarily it's going to come from the high school ranks. That they need shooters, proven shooters, and I think that Mike Woodson's going to really have to work the transfer portal to see what's available, and see what players do end up leaving, and see how much space they have. So I think that's going to be where this team has to work a little bit, and not just get the high school signees.
Absolutely. What are you expecting today out at Pro Day?
I don't know. I mean, the 7 guys? Aaron Casey, did everything at the combine. Curious to see. I know he wasn't particularly thrilled with his 40 time. If he tries again, I thought Andre Carter was a good prospect. If he runs a good 40, I could see him really elevating his draft stock. He'd probably be the guy that I'd keep an eye on, just in terms of somebody that could really have an impact on what their status is.
Looking forward to it, and I'm sure I'll see you sooner than you'd rather. It won't be long. Brother, appreciate you very much. Mike Niziolek from the Bloomington Herald-Times. Make sure you're giving him a follow and keep me up with all the content. Appreciate you, my friend.
See you in a couple of minutes. Bye, Jim.
Yeah, there you go, brother. Mike Niziolek joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Man, another fun day. We've got a few minutes yet to go, though. John, you still have that chance.
We do. We can, if you want to roll some Woody, some X, and some Mbako, we have it now.
Let's hear it, baby. Let her roll.
We'll start off with, and these are all comments from the post-game Q&As after the Maryland matchup. So here's what Woodson had to say about his team's resiliency.
It's something that we've lacked this season, man. I mean, we've struggled to put the ball in the hole, and tonight it all came together a little bit. I think X had a lot to do with it, being out there, taking some of the pressure off of Gabe. Gabe got off to a great start for us. And I just thought X was Xavier Johnson. I mean, he did a lot of good things on the floor from a defensive standpoint, but just controlling the game along with him and Gallo out front, our 2 seniors. Man, I missed that this season. I really have.
There you go. And that was Mike Woodson talking about getting over the hump a little bit.
Without saying it. Shooting. Yes.
Yes. I thought I'd say it for him.
Yeah. A little closure. And then let's go ahead and hear from Xavier Johnson giving his thoughts after a good performance.
I mean, honestly, the past couple games, from before, we were able to get over the hump. Because we'll cut the lead, and then we'll go right back to what we were doing to lose the game. This game, we had to raise our level, we had to raise our bar. With us coming back, we wanted to win. Everybody wanted to win, and everybody raised their bar.
When you got some,
excuse me, on that little note there at the end, and then Mackenzie Mbako talks about Xavier Johnson's impact on the game.
He just pushes it. I mean, I can't even explain. He's so great at what he does, being able to, move the ball in transition and get downhill at an amazing pace and find the players, for the open shot.
when he's got the
Well, that was quick.
We only got about a minute or so.
Yeah. Hey, tomorrow is Wednesday, Hump Day. Of course, that means Dylan Sin will be joining us. Not sure if he'll be at Pro Day, but if he is, I'll know because I'll see him. And we'll talk about plenty of things coming up with Purdue, Indiana. Butler, man, I don't think that they're going to make it in. But we'll talk about the Bulldogs as well. Notre Dame definitely not getting things turned around this season in Micah Shrewsbury's first year. So they will not be participating in the tournament either. Also, Kyle Nedrip from the Indy Star will join us. We'll get you caught up and previewed for what is going down in the Indiana boys basketball tournament. Indiana basketball tournament this weekend. Oh, big reminder, Friday, Pat Graham, assistant coach at Evansville Harrison now, former IU player, sharpshooter. Sharon Wilkerson, former Indiana teammate of his. And if you haven't heard it, go back and listen to when they were on together before. John, how long ago was that?
I believe it was back in December.
Yeah, go back and all the videos are there on YouTube. You'll be able to find it. But Great stories about when Sharon first came in as a player and Pat gave him the talk. They go at it on Saturday at Southridge High School in tournament action as Sharon Wilkerson's Jeffersonville Red Devils tries to put a stop on the 20-4 season of Evansville Harrison.
30.
So, and they'll be with us on Friday. Looking forward to that. Of course, tomorrow, our good friend, the captain, Rick Bozich, joins us as well. Big thanks to Mike DeCourcy, Hoosier, Mike Niziolek, John, the producer, and most importantly, each and every one of you. Without you, we have no reason to be here. We're so grateful. Heading out to Indiana Pro Day as the Thunder rumbles. Until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.